You're welcome back. Now, there's a new curriculum about to be rolled out in basic education here in Ghana. We're going to continue our analysis of it today. It's been introduced by the Ghana Education Service. It's going to start in September this year, and we're going to see a number of learning areas at the kindergarten level reduced from 7 to 4. And of course, many other highlights, including some more standardized tests. History now becomes compulsory in primary school, and there are many, many other things. In addition to that, we also had the announcement about new uniforms and so many other things that have garnered conversation. But why converse when we can go straight to the source and get clarity? That's what we're doing this morning. The Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Professor Kwesi Opoku-Amankwah, is our guest this morning. Prof, how nice to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Indeed, it's our pleasure, and thank you for making the time.
Thank you too.
So I'm hoping that today we can really get through a lot of the things that are raising questions and issues from the announcements that was made last week, but also that we can learn a bit of the detail that is yet to capture the public's attention. But let's start with the big ones, the highlights. Okay. And before we even get to the curriculum, Prof, new uniforms. You've noticed how Ghanaians have responded, suggesting that this isn't a priority. And we heard your explanation that there is some need to boost confidence amongst the JHS students. I want us to talk about that and get a bit more understanding of it. This confidence, did you do some research that indicated that there is low confidence among JHS students?
Kojo, good morning, and good morning to your viewers and your crew as well. It's my first time here, and I hope that it won't be the first time. We'll continue.
Yeah.
I thought, because this one was so exciting, you were going to leave it to the
we'll get it out of the way and get to the other stuff.
Okay, so let's go on. Yeah, so school uniform. I think we need to put it in context, right, rather than just narrowing down on the JHS school uniform, and then we need to look at uniforms in general and probably school uniforms, and then this one that we're talking about. Now, uniforms in general have some benefits that they give. So you get even elderly people working in some organizations having uniforms. The army has uniforms, the police has uniforms, the banks, the courts, those things. It's a kind of identity. It identifies you, and it makes a distinction between you and some other group. Secondly, it also a form of pride. It gives a form of pride, self-esteem. Now, when it comes to school uniforms, for example, the issue of equity. We could all be wearing different attire and things like that to school, but the issue of equity gets us to want to have a uniform that gives us or puts us all on the same track, so that you don't need to be worrying. And you've asked about studies. Yes, studies have been done elsewhere, which shows that when students have uniform, they tend to concentrate. They are not worried about their friends' attire being nicer than them. They concentrate, and once you are in school, the key thing that you need first is to be able to concentrate and to learn. Again, in our normal life, you realize that the attire that we wear, we keep changing them with our levels as we move on. In our school system, for example, when you go to the secondary school, especially for the males, you usually see the first years and sometimes the second years in shorts. But as they get to the senior levels, what do? They are wearing the trouser. Now, the idea is to, as we indicated, it gives you some psychological self-esteem. Again, for us genius, when we see that, it's also something that it's a kind of peps us up to want to be moving up the ladder. You know, there are people who have even said that one of the reasons why they want to be in the secondary school, the SHS, is that they want to see that they are wearing this uniform, especially for some schools. He wants to go to school A or school B because of the uniform. That doesn't mean that that is the only reason why the person wants to go there. But generally, uniforms are things that are part of the entire school system, which helps in the development of students. You know, when you go to UK, for example, they have the School Wear Association, which ensures that the right uniforms are purchased, they are used rightly. People have come home to do homework where they still will want to even be in their uniform because the person feels that once he's in that mood, he or she can sit and finish the work. Once he or she removes that uniform, then he's in another context. And it even happens to all of us. There are a lot of things that you need to be doing in the office. Once you sit in the office and you are dressed in the office mood, you're working, you could work on and on and on late into the night. Then sometimes you say, oh, let me take these few things home and then go and finish it up. You go, you hang your jacket here, you do this. The next moment, you feel the environment and even your apparel doesn't give you the right frame to be even working. So uniforms are very important. Now, we are doing a number of reforms. There is a teacher education reform, teacher professionalism. For us in GES, we are looking at our human resource. We are doing a lot of reforms within our human resource, our structure, and things like that. When you come to the content, issues of content and structure, that is where NACA comes in, and they started this reform. And all these reforms, one leads to the other. What we are aiming at is what we call whole school reform. We don't just want to touch on this one and then touch on this one. Now, so as they go along, at a given point, one of the issues may come up, it may become a national issue, but as far as we are concerned, it is something that leads to the other, and we believe that once we've got all together, we'll get it right.
Okay. Now, it's interesting because what I was actually asking was whether there was some research that went into our JHS students to find whether they were suffering some disadvantage due to a lack of confidence, and whether that research indicated that that lack of confidence is coming from their uniforms, for which reason we decided to make this. Because you see, this is, of all the things you've announced, this is one of the decisions that parents will have to pay to implement.
Okay.
You know, so yeah.
Okay, so let's start from the payment issue. I think in the announcement I indicated that we are phasing it out over a period. We are expecting that the first years will be going to JHS 1 this year, which will be in September this year, will be those who will be using it. But we don't even expect all of them to be using it. It is probable that maybe they have some of the uniforms already sewn for them, or they have senior brothers or sisters who are leaving school and they will bequeath their uniforms to them. So we're saying that over the 3 years, by the time the first years of JHS 1 this year get to third year, we expect that they would have used the uniforms. Now, the other thing is that we don't expect this new uniform to be costlier than what is already on the market. And nobody is going to drive you away because you did not bring this uniform. In fact, our policy is that students should not even be turned out of school because they are not in school uniform, those who cannot afford. And that is why government has a package which has been running over the years for some time now to buy uniforms for deprived communities, which we believe government will still continue to do. You know, so the then it's not about leave this, you bought this already, leave this, go, and then buy this.
But 3 years from now, that will be the case.
3 years from now, it would have phased out.
Yes, so 3 years from now, you can't bring old uniform to JHS.
Yes, it would have phased out.
Yes.
And that is, I think that is long time enough for us to do that phase now. On the issue of research and all that, what we're saying is that JHS, they are seniors to the primary, they are secondary school. Except that for those of us who attended the old school system, when you finish your basic school, you write your common entrance either at P6 or Form 1 or Form 2 of the middle school. You go straight to the secondary school, and you are there from Form 1 to Form 3. It is the lower part of the secondary school, and we still were part of the secondary school system. In fact, when you go elsewhere, in most countries, the primary school is set off from the secondary school. So right from primary 6, you go to the secondary school. Some call it middle school, they have different names, high school, etc., etc., but it is part of the secondary school. The only issue now is that for us in Ghana, primary and JHS are on the same compound, you know. And the fact that they are on the same compound doesn't stop us from having these people distinct from this other group.
But what problem does it solve? That's the question I'm asking with this research thing. What problem have we identified? Is it just the leadership of GES have looked at it and thought, oh, yeah, kids will be more confident if they had different uniforms? Or did you actually subject it to some scientific research? Did you measure the level of confidence that the children in JHS are losing because their uniform is the same as primary? Is there a measure?
You don't need to go to that extent.
Why not?
You don't need to go to that extent.
You're asking people to spend money on a new directive.
Yes,
that should be based on
why,
research.
That is why we are not compelling them to do it over a short period. You know, you don't need to go to that extent.
But 3 years from now, it will be compulsory.
3 years from now, let's get there and then let's see how we work it out. I've already told you that even now, if you don't have a uniform, we don't say that don't go to school because you don't have a uniform. And when you go into the rural communities and other places, you see people who come with their all different, and it has a challenge though to them. You know, they are bullied and things like that. They don't feel confident and all that. And these things, I believe you know. Haven't you ever had a situation where you dress nicely, you stand in the mirror and you say, this one, today I don't feel like, and then you want to know, you know, it boosts confidence. Let's roll it out. Let's see how it plays up. Probably what we also need to do is to also go down to the students themselves and be finding out from them whether getting a school uniform, a new school uniform, is something that they don't like. I believe that it's something that we will all like.
So, well, to clarify, so we actually have an answer to the question. It's not based on research. It's based on a belief that the leadership of the GES has.
It's based on a proposal. It's based on observations. It's based on things that we've done over there. If you say research, I don't know the kind of research that maybe you are talking about. I'm a researcher. You're talking about some hypothesis, research, this, that. But the research, it's even already there. As I indicated, if you go to the website of School Wear Association, you get all the things about
benefits of
uniforms.
But they are already wearing
uniform.
But they are already wearing uniform. So they are getting that benefit.
They are seniors.
This is a new uniform.
They are seniors. They are seniors to begin with. If there is no benefit for one stage to the other, then probably we should be advocating that once you are in school, the uniform should be something that runs through all to SHS or probably even to the university. You know, if there are no benefits
in the university.
Yes, if there are no benefits.
But you know,
so what I'm saying is that
in many countries, children, as soon as they finish primary school, in fact, even in primary school in the United States, they don't wear uniforms. Does this affect their performance?
there are a number of states where they use uniforms, you know, and arguments have come up about their rights and to the amendments rights and all those kind of things. But the issue is that gradually, especially in the United States, one of the key reasons why they're bringing in the uniform is about issues of bullying and these issues of confidence that we're talking about. People, I have read material that talk about a number of students who don't go to school, and one of the reasons that they are attributing is that probably because of the issue of uniform, because when they go, they are ridiculed and they are bullied and things like that. You know, so there's so much in it. The issue about parents paying and all that, yes, as of now, that is the policy at the basic level. We have also heard arguments about why people at SHS are given uniforms and then those now they are not given uniforms. That's a government policy. You know, we advise on these things. Government decides on where the direction should go, and then we ensure that we implement.
With your experience, is that what you would have advised government to do? You are talking about how uniforms are provided
yes.
at the SHS.
Yes, this one came as part of these new changes that we're talking about. It's part of the advice that as
so you know you had samples at the press conference. You had this particular sample. So who made the sample for you?
The sample.
Yeah.
We got a couple of people to give us samples, and we also brainstormed about the designs and things like that.
But a company made this, right? A company made this sample for you?
A company, not a company. I think it's one of the individuals that we got to do, and his or hers was picked.
Okay.
You know? Yeah, but I don't.
So there was like a bid process, if you will.
Not a bid process, but we had a proposal, so we brainstormed. Usually, some of these things we started with indoor discussions, throwing it up and down, and then we put some of these ideas together. Remember that we are talking about education. We have people there who are vocational and those TVETs and all those kind of. So sometimes you can even give it out as some tax to some students who don't even know why they are doing that. And then at the end of the day, you pick some ideas.
Is that what you did?
Yes, we picked some ideas, and then we just put the ideas together. And
so it was designed by students.
A number of ideas, and then a group of people, some included students, some included people from outside that we felt that could do that. But
so in the end, who won?
This specific one, it wasn't something for somebody to win for.
Okay.
For him or her to be given something.
All right.
Yeah, and then I also not very sure this one is. We can say that it is Kwejo, because at the end of the day, it's putting the ideas together. Somebody will say, "Oh, it should be pleats, it should be this," you know. So at the end of the day, then you get it done and then you put it.
So it was a group of people that designed this,
who worked on some of these things.
And then you gave it to who to make it?
The seamstress.
Okay.
You mean the specific seamstress?
I'm trying to figure out, because it was printed, wasn't it? You've got crests on it and so forth.
Yes.
So yes, it wasn't just a seamstress. You had a printer.
It's a print in the material. If I had brought the material here, probably would have seen. It's not something that has been woven into it. I think it's the only thing that is kind of woven is the Ghana flag.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's an ordinary print in the market.
Have you awarded?
And this material, it's a commonly used material on the market.
So people will be able to go and buy it themselves.
Yes,
from anyone.
We expect that it will be on the market. You buy and then.
But where will they get the crest and things?
Oh, it can easily be done. Those things are things that the textiles people can design. If you take it to even KNUST, they can easily do it for you.
So people will have the choice of where to go and get their uniforms
just as
printed.
The current one is on the open market, and everybody is.
But don't you have any standards? Shouldn't the crest look a certain way? Don't you have any standards that you expect them to be?
Those are the things in there. What we have said in our presentation was that in the weeks ahead we are going to give some guidelines as to how it should look like and all those kind of things. You know.
But you are not going to award a contract to somebody to be doing it.
No. No. And the only time that you get people to maybe supply to you will be when government is buying.
Right.
But government largely is not buying. And whenever it is time for government to buy for the deprived schools and communities, we do the usual thing. We go
Tender.
through our procurement processes and then we get it.
Okay, all right, enough about uniforms. We spent a lot of time on that. Now let's talk about the curriculum itself. Now I was very excited by a number of things in there. The first one was the reduction of the number of subjects at kindergarten. I'll be honest, I didn't know that there were 7 different subjects that children between the ages of 4 and 6 are supposed to learn. Now it's been reduced to 4. Tell us, I think the thinking is obvious, kids at that age, you need to focus their learning a bit more. But tell us a little bit of the outcomes you expect. So by the time a child is 6, what are the things that you are hoping they will have to enter primary school?
Okay. So we look at the current curriculum, which has been running for some time now. We should have ideally been changing or reviewing every 5 years, but it's been running for the past 12 years. So what it simply means that it is about time we looked at changing it. Now, it has to be changed because we want to be preparing students to be current with the growing times in their community, smaller community, larger community, and then the global community. So we need to always be catching up. So as frequently as possible, we need to change. Even if we're going to go the old one, we still needed to be revising to catch up with time. Now, we also look at the current one and then realize that it is more examination focused. It is more examination focused with limited attention on skills acquisition, ability to apply knowledge and things like that. And we felt that we need to do something about it. We also realized that we are in a fast changing world, technology and all that, and we needed a kind of curriculum that reflects that kind of technology. Students should now start having a good sense of computers and ICT and things like that so that they can catch up with the growing. So something like what we call digital literacy. We need to start making the students digitally literate. There are issues about we talk a lot in the media, for example, about issues of abuse of national resources and things like that. I don't want to use the word, but the word that is so
commonly used.
Yes. So issues about patriotism, issues about financial literacy, cultural literacy, we needed people to first know themselves. You don't want to wait till you finish to a certain level and then you start going to do some course in emotional intelligence and things like that, and and become so theoretical. We want you to start knowing yourself. Self-awareness is key to us, and then once you have that self-awareness, you can move on to other things. And then national identity, believing in yourself as a Ghanaian and wanting to support and help Ghana to move on. So we're looking at all these things together, and we felt the need for us to relook at the curriculum to bring it into...
The word that you didn't want to use, is it corruption? Is that the word you didn't want to say?
Yes.
Oh, Prof, what's wrong with
there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't want us to be happing on
But it's one of the things that you want to basically morally teach children to be against, right?
To be
That's
against.
a good thing, isn't it?
So not just harping on the word corruption, but generally telling people the importance of good behavior. I mean, patriotism, nationalism, and things like that. So
how are we doing that specifically at kindergarten level?
We looked at all these things, and then we felt the need to review the curriculum, and now look at what in international practice now is known as the standards-based curriculum. And what it simply means is that for a student or a people, when you have gone through some level of education, whatever level that you get to, there should be some competencies, some abilities, some skills, some knowledge that you should demonstrate to reflect the levels that you are talking of. If, for example, we set the standard, or we set the benchmark, and then we say that when you have finished class 1, you should know ABC, you should know the alphabet. What it simply means is that at the end of class 1, or as we go along, we need to be tracking you to find out that by the time you get to the end of class 1, would you have known the things that you have to know? If it's some problem-solving activity that we want you to have, some ability to solve some problems, we need to know that at this level, we need to be able to assess you to see whether you have not, right, you have achieved it. If you haven't, then what are the things, why are the reasons why you haven't? So is it about the approach of teaching? Is it about some issue about home? Is it about your uniform, which is disturbing you, so that we want you to want to go on and then do some of these things? So that is the key that is driving the and to do that means you need to look at the content of the curriculum, the subjects that you are teaching. In the past, we had, if you take mathematics, we had a lot of topics and areas that we're treating. So it was widely treated, but it wasn't in-depth. So this time, we reduced them. We reduced the number of areas that you want to look at, but we go more in-depth, so that at the end of the day, you get the knowledge that you require. Now, the other thing that we are also looking at is what we call cross-cutting issues. We expect that when you have finished your basic school, you should be somebody who can solve problems. So problem-solving skills. You should be somebody who can do critical thinking. So we take you through critical thinking skills. You should be somebody who can communicate effectively. So communication skills. You should be somebody, and communication, we are not just looking at writing or being able to talk or whatever, but all the 4 major areas of listening, speaking, writing, etc., etc. No? Then the issue of collaboration, which is also key. At the end of the day, when we are in school, sometimes we work independently because we want to be first and we want to be there. But when you come out of school and you go into the world of work,
you have to work with others.
It's a teamwork.
Yeah.
So we need to start getting people to be doing teamworks and things like that. I remember when I started teaching in the university in the late 90s, we had some training on how to teach large classes. And part of those trainings were for us to have some 5 minutes discussions and break the class into 5-minute discussion, get people to come in front of the class to do presentations, etc., etc. And the lady who came to do it for us was from Oxford Brooks. So a young guy who has just come into the teaching, I was so enthusiastic at doing that, getting them to do things together. And it wasn't working. So I sent an email to the lady telling her about my frustration and all that. And her question was, do they get to do this in their primary and secondary schools before they come to the university? I said no. And then said, no, then it will be very difficult for you to be doing that teamwork over here, you know. We need now to start laying the foundation, so people working together. When you go to other countries, KG, class 1, class 2, you go to their classes. In some classes, you don't even have furniture. They just are sitting on the mats you know, working together as teams. They have what we call the big book, sometimes as large as this surface, lying there, and then as a group, they are all looking at it and reading. So they start building that teamwork. You start knowing human behavior, you start knowing how you should relate to each other, respect for each other, and things like that, and you grow up with it. And this is something that we feel that we may not have all the resources yet, but we still need to start off
doing that.
And then as we go along, we can get to work things out.
That's laudable.
Yeah.
Prof, will kids still have to do a test before they enter kindergarten?
Do kids do tests to enter kindergarten?
In some
I think
schools,
in some private schools, but public schools, I don't know.
All right.
I don't know about
How about
that,
kindergarten to primary?
Now, assessment is part of the school system. Once we indicate that we want you to acquire some competencies, we obviously need at a point to see whether you have acquired that competency, whether you have the ability to do that analysis that we want you to do, whether you have that critical thinking skill, whether you've acquired it or not. So we'll be doing the assessment along the line. Now, this assessment is not for us to say that you are first, you are second, you are third. It's for us to see the areas where we are doing well so that we continue to do it well. And then to see the areas that we are falling short so that we continue, we try to remedy those areas. What we're saying is that at a point, a student may decide not to go to school. But at that point, we are now pitching it at SHS. If you decide that you don't want to go to school, you have to have some basic things to be able to go into the world of work. You know, so some critical things, and we should be assessing these things to see whether you are achieving them as you go along. So we'll be having assessments along the line. The usual class tests, the usual quizzes and all that are still part of the school system. Then, as a nation, we want to know all our class two pupils. Are they achieving the standard that we have set for them? So we'll do what we call a national assessment at class 2. And at that level, we are concentrating on literacy and numeracy. And we are concentrating on literacy and numeracy because for us, if you get a strong foundation in literacy and numeracy, that is all that you need to build the superstructure. If you want to do your science, you want to do your business, you would need every aspect of work that you need. There's some area in some calculation that you may not call mathematics, but at least it's some calculation. So if you get that sense of numeracy, it takes you there. To express the things that you know, and on paper, you would need to be able to do that with skills in literacy, knowledge in literacy.
What do we assess them for at class 4 and then class 6 as well?
Class 4 will do that. Class 4, class 6 are upper primary. So we also intend to add at that level, to add science to the, so literacy, numeracy, and science. And it is not to say that you can't move on. You know, it is to get the challenges that you have. So at the end of it, if you move on to class 3, for example, then in class 3, we know those who have some issues that more work has to be done with them to bring them to the levels that we all expect. So that by the time you finish your SHS, as we're saying, you would have acquired the skills that we have set, the standards that we have set. Everyone who is going out of there would have acquired that. Then you can take it beyond that too.
So we add science in class 4, and then in class 6?
Science, that is upper primary.
So 4 and 6.
4 and 6.
We add science. I was asking earlier about from kindergarten to primary. And there's a test there as well, but it's not a national standardized one.
No, they do their normal class exercises and class tests.
So let's talk about the concept of standardized tests. Now, first of all, to clarify, on these tests that we will be doing at 2, 4, and 6, they are not to determine whether you are moved on or not. So if somebody fails that test, what you're saying is that the only outcome will be that in the next year, they will focus on the areas where they failed.
Yeah.
Am I right?
And the issue is not about fail that test.
Okay, or did not
you have
meet
not
a
been
standard.
able to
achieve
acquire that competencies that we want you to acquire.
Yeah.
So we think that you fall short of that competencies.
Okay.
So we need to do some remedy for you to get you to that level. Yeah.
So my question is, why must it be a national test that you use to make that determination? Can the teachers in the schools not devise tests that will, give them that information, that will tell them whether, they have acquired these competencies or not? Why must it be a national standard test?
Okay. So the teachers at all stages in their classrooms will still be working on the things that they have to be doing. Now, we have set a national standard. So for us, the education authorities, we need to know whether we are achieving that national standards. It might be very difficult to go to every teacher at every given time and then pick that national standards.
Surely you don't have to do that. All you have to do is gather the information centrally. So the schools will report to the districts will report to...
But you also need to set that national test so that all of them will feed in. What it also does is that it gives us the opportunity to also see the areas that the students are not doing well. See the teachers who are not catching up with what they are supposed to be doing.
Shouldn't headmasters be able to do that?
Headmasters will do that. They will do that. Circuit officers will do that. District directors will do that.
Yeah.
Regional directors will do that. But at the end of the day, as a nation, we have to have a clear sense so that it will inform policy direction.
I'm surprised that we don't have that clear sense at the moment. I'm surprised because we are writing tests. Every end of every term, kids are writing tests. So what is the difficulty?
Kids are writing tests, but they are writing tests
data
differently.
Yeah.
They are writing tests differently from the different classes.
Based on the same curriculum, though.
Based on the same curriculum, but we are setting different questions and then at different levels of assessment. For example, for those of us in education, we have some things that we look out for. When you teach and you're assessing, you may assess for knowledge. You may assess for understanding. You may want to assess people's ability to apply that knowledge. You may want to find out whether people are able to synthesize knowledge. You want to find out whether people are able to do evaluation of the knowledge. And at all these levels, when you bring a question paper to me now, I can tell you that maybe this question that you have set, it is, what do you call it? It is, it's at the understanding level. It has at the knowledge level. In your class, you may confine your students to the knowledge level, and then it will give the national impression that, oh, you are doing well. I may confine mine to the analysis level, where they have to do more, and then they may not be doing well. Now, we set the national one, and then we know that we ask you to do ABC. In the class, you should be doing this. At the end of the day, as a nation, are we achieving the kind of standards that we want? So that we can have a global picture. If we are not, what are the key issues that we need to tackle? Then we can get that to do that.
Right.
So that is the reason why we want to be doing these assessments.
Okay. Now, again, let's look at examples around the world. I believe for many years now, a few years now, Finland has been sort of number one when it comes to the quality of their education and the outcomes that their kids have at the end of basic education and beyond. And in Finland, they don't even introduce the concept of subjects to kids until they're 7 years old.
Yeah.
And they don't write standardized tests until they're teenagers.
Yeah.
And they are the best.
Yeah.
In the United States, over the past few years, they've started trending towards fewer and fewer standardized tests, and they are seeing better and better results. So it appears that even scientifically, less standardized tests seems better for kids at that age. We are going for more standardized standardized tests. Prof, are we not shooting ourselves in the foot?
The literature on education doesn't support what you're saying. That scientifically, less and less exams does well. There are several models of education that we implement all over the world. And in Finland that you're talking about, to the age 7 that in the school system, reading and writing is taken for granted. It is the responsibility of your parents to be doing that. You can't apply that here. You can't apply that here. Getting parents to be doing the the reading and writing,
the teaching of reading and writing,
setting the basis for you to go to school. You know, so every society, every community looks at various areas that you think will fit the system that you're running. There are several other communities, societies who are also doing the standardized test and all that. For us, for all this while, we've not been doing some of these things. You know, so starting off, you don't go and start with someone who has been doing this for sometimes 100 years, 200 years, 500 years. You know, you still have to have certain things that will have to go. You know, so in education, there is not one single model or approach that you can confidently say that this one works in all societies, and that is what everyone is saying. Of course, recently, I think we also read about Singapore, and I was telling my minister that I think we need to go to Singapore. That Singapore says they've stopped, I think, class exams or exams or something like that, you know. But we need to know the context in which they are doing that before you can decide that, yes, we also want to do it this way or that way. You know, one of the things that this standardized tests and the standardized assessments and the standard curriculum and all that is going to do is that once we start doing those standard tests, national tests, it will also mean that teachers are going to be more responsible, they're going to work more to ensure that the task that has been given to them, they are performing. Because one of the key issues that we have in our education is the teacher time on task.
Right.
The teacher may be present in the school, but how is he using the time? What goes in there? You know, so once there are things that at the end of class 2, you would have known. What it means is that it's not only for the class 2 teacher, but for the class 1 teacher and the KG teacher, you all will have something to do before we get to class 2. When we get to class 2 and we move on to class 4, what we know is that class 3 and class 4 teachers, there are certain things that you should have imbibed in the children so that we can move on. So these things are things that a lot of work has gone into it. You look at elsewhere, as I said, you can look at different models of doing these things. But it is for you to look at your context, your social, economic, political context, and see how best you can situate some of these things alongside.
Well, we're having a rather interesting conversation with the Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Professor Kwesi Opoku-Amankwah, but we want you to join our conversation. If you have children in basic education here in Ghana and you're wondering about how this is all going to play out for you, what role you have to play in the implementation of this new curriculum, give us a call. Let's talk about it. 0302 211 691 or 0302 211 692. Call us with your questions or send them to us via social media, Facebook and Twitter. Use the hashtag AskGES. AskGES. All right, and we'll pick up all your questions and we'll see how many of them we can get answers for while we have Prof with us. Now, Prof, while we're waiting for them to join, let's talk about history and the interesting debates that have come up about it. And Prof, I took the time to go through the 70-page history curriculum. And yes, there's a lot of J.B. Dankwa. And not a lot of Kwame Nkrumah. But to be fair, there are certain things which, if the teacher is following the exemplars, no doubt Kwame Nkrumah will be mentioned. Like if you're talking about all the presidents since the 60s, for example. Yeah, you're going to talk about Kwame Nkrumah. But there are specific strands and sub-strands dedicated to JB Dankwa. We'll talk about that in a moment. We've got Timothy Isaku on the line from Ijra. Timothy, good morning. Thanks for calling us.
Good morning.
So what's your question for the Director General?
My point is, I hope Director has spoken very well.
Yes, please, don't listen to the TV. Listen to the phone, yeah.
But I know if directors, they are going to do fair distribution of materials to all the schools. Because I am a teacher in a village school. I am a teacher in a village school where there's no fair distribution of materials. Now that they are changing a new curriculum, how are they going to implement this? Because in my school, there is no any materials. We have to improvise to teach the people. So I believe this new curriculum, they have to do fair distribution of what? Materials. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Timothy. And I see the DG has written down that question so he can answer in a moment. Let's take a few more. Eben Agbenya is in Sunyani. Eben, good morning.
Good morning, my brother.
So you have a question for the DG?
I just want to thank the Director General for his explanations into the matters as far as the new curriculum is concerned this morning. The next I would want to urge him and his team is the fact that he is working, but he should also be mindful of the fact that the history of this country will forever be as we've known. He should not be pushed because a government gave him that position, so that he is forced to do anything otherwise than we have known, especially the new yet you are to introduce to him dealing with the history and individuals that are yet to be packed into the curriculum. They should do it with a very fair mind, equally fair mind, so that no group of persons or political traditions, particularly as an Nkrumah, that tomorrow we realize that it is a strategy or a platform they bring just to do something to favor any group of persons, particularly one particular tradition and family.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eben. Nancy Akwete is in Ho. Nancy, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Good. So you have a question for the DG?
Yes, a couple of questions. Question one. I want to know if the learning program the kids are going through in the public schools will be continued.
The what program?
Learning program.
Okay.
That they have to learn the Ghanaian language and will continue with English in class 2, as the new policy says in literacy.
Right, okay.
The other one is this. Hello?
Yes, we're listening. What's your second question?
The next question is, why is it that with new, the teachers are not in the they are just the big things. We don't know anything about it. At least they should have our views before they will come out with this, because some of the they are already in the textbook. So that's why they are still wasting money doing things already in the system. But there are serious issues like infrastructure problems and other things in the school.
Right.
So that's why things are waste of money. It's just they are just going back to the things already reviewed it.
Nancy, it's very difficult to hear you, Nancy. Your line isn't the greatest. I hope you can call us back with that second question. It was a bit difficult to pick up. Nancy? Yeah, it's very hard to hear you. Can you summarize your second question very quickly for us?
Hello?
Nancy, can you hear us? Yes. So your second question, just in a sentence. Yeah.
Most of the things he's talking about, corruption and other topics, we have them already in the textbook.
Okay. All right.
Especially class 4 textbook. So if we are just doing things for politics, but not going back to the book itself, to know the actual things in the book, they are just, whatever he's saying, they are already in the book.
All right.
For me, some of these things are just wastage of money. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We'll get you an answer to that question as well. Paul Amponsa is in Tamale. Paul, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling. What's your question?
I want to ask Director, what are you going to benefit from this reform as far as education is concerned? That's my question.
Again, what are we going to
benefit from this
benefit
reform?
From the uniform? Right.
Yes.
What
As
would
far
be
as
the
education is
benefits?
concerned.
Okay. Prof may have already attempted that one, but thank you, Paul. Right. Well, Prof, these are the questions that have come in now. Let's start with them, and then we'll take a few more.
Benefits from new uniform. Okay, new uniform.
Benefits of the uniform, which I think.
All right.
tackled,
So
but
let me take them one after the other. I think the first person talked about the need for us to fairly distribute the resources.
yeah.
Yeah. As far as we are concerned, whenever we are distributing resources, we distribute them fairly based on the information that we have. And some of the challenges that sometimes we get is when the uniforms, the things that we distribute move from maybe the center to the region to the district and things like that. Again, people are, teachers will always come on radio and then say some of these things. But the unfortunate thing is that sometimes they don't even raise these issues through their teachers and circuit supervisors to even the district level.
So you are not getting these issues coming through?
Once in a while, we get some of these issues coming through. But what I'm saying is that if you have issues of resources, for us, we make sure that we do equitable distribution of the resources. But if you have issues of resources, it might not necessarily be that we have not distributed the resources. It might be that it is sitting somewhere, maybe at the regional level, maybe at the district level, sometimes even in the school. It might be sitting in the head teacher's cupboards or things like that. So if you have any of these challenges, go through the system and then let us know. Whenever we get to know of these things, we send people around to make sure that it is resolved. But generally, we've not had distribution of materials over some time now, and we're working on these things. Now, the issue about history, let me start off by saying that no one can rewrite the history of Ghana. No one can rewrite the history of Ghana. And no one will attempt to do that. I think this issue about J.B. Dankwa has come up, and the professor who chairs NACA, is a historian, Professor Osei Kwatin at UCC. And on one of the platforms, this is what he said. Maybe with your permission, I can read. There are some parts, but maybe I'll leave them. But he says, my take, history is chronological and periodical in nature. In the chronology and periodic sequence, J.B. Dankwa came first before Kwame Nkrumah in the face of the curriculum, whereas Nkrumah will be featuring in all events that took place from 1957 onwards, when he emerged on the political space. J.B. Dankwa will be conspicuously missing. JHS and SHS history curriculum will be focusing in detail on CPP as a breakaway party from UGCC, CPP winning 1951 elections, Nkrumah as the leader of government business, Nkrumah as prime minister, 1954 and 1956 elections, 1954 and 1956 elections, independence, first Nkrumah and Pan-African OAU, first republic, first military coup, Progress Party, a champions NRC, SMC 1 and 2, AFRC, Third Republic, Lehman government, PNDC, Fourth Republic, and then it goes on and on and on and on. So it is not that somebody is picking J.B. Dankwa and then projecting him beyond a certain level. It can't happen.
So to clarify, what you're saying is that for the entirety of primary
For
school,
those who wrote the thing, and I can give you the names of the people who wrote the
yeah, we'll get that in a minute, but I want us to clarify
so,
this and get to the next call. So
yeah.
are you saying that for while a pupil is in primary school all the way up to JHS 1, they will not get to Nkrumah? They will only be in the period
The people who have written the thing, they say it's chronological, and they have a way that they have done it.
Right.
I have not taken, you have taken so much time to look at the history for good reasons. I have not taken time to look at the history, whatever. But I have a general idea about all the things, our country, our people, and those kind of things, you know. But what they are saying is that you can never tell the history of Ghana without mentioning J.B. Dankwa. You can never tell the history of Ghana without mentioning a Park Grant. But you can never tell the history of Ghana without
what we're seeing here, and we'll take some calls and then come back to this issue. So from what
he is saying that as we move on to the higher levels, he is saying that at this level, Nkrumah will be mentioned. But there is also a point where you talk more about each of them as you go along. So I have not seen this attention about 70% or whatever that has been given to Nkrumah. In fact, this is an issue that has come up. I believe that the people who did the writing will come up to defend whatever they did and then the justification for what they have done. But let us get it clear. No one can rewrite the history of Ghana, and no one intends to rewrite the history of Ghana.
Fair enough, but it would appear, and then you see, what I want to do is I want to go by the explanation being given by the chair himself.
Yes.
And Professor Kwarteng is a friend of mine.
Okay.
But it appears that what he's suggesting is that the thing will be taught in a certain order.
Yes.
So when we look at the curriculum in front of us, which is for kindergarten to JHS 3, it is the JB Dankwa era that is being focused on. We are not yet at Nkrumah.
We don't even have JHS now.
Sorry, so this is primary. To class primary 6.
Yeah.
So it is the JB Dankwa era that we are focusing on, and that it is when you get to JHS that you will then learn about Nkrumah, because we are going chronologically.
I'm not sure that is what he's saying. What he's saying is what
doesn't really apply.
What he's saying is that right from the scratch, we'll talk about all these areas. You know, you get the general view. But when you come to talking about them step by step, and know that yes, we have made history as a standalone subject that we're going to teach. But note that if you take, for example, literacy and then history, whereas I think history is about 2 periods a week, literacy is going to be about 10 periods a week. So what it means is that within that 2 periods a week, you cannot necessarily teach everything. They have their way of writing. The historians have their way of writing.
And they certainly prioritize JB Dankwa here. We'll talk a bit more about this in a minute. I want us to take these calls.
They can give us more about that. But
Prof, our callers are spending a bit of money, calling us. So I want us to take as many of them as possible. Then we'll come back and talk a bit more about this. So Stella Otu is in Koforidua. Hi, Stella. Good morning. What's your question?
Good morning. Please, I'd like to ask the first question. That when are we supposed to use this kind of curriculum in the classroom?
I believe it's from September.
Yeah.
September.
That's right.
Okay. Please, my first another concern is that when it comes to the basic school, but a lot of people don't have textbooks that they write in, and so when you bring this kind of curriculum, are you going to provide a textbook for the pupils?
Okay.
So most of the parents in the public schools cannot afford books for their pupils.
Okay.
And so a pupil can be in a school for a whole year without writing anything. And the child cannot sit in the class and be doing lecturing methods. The child has to, participate in activities.
It sounds like you are talking about exercise books, not textbooks.
Exercise book, and we have textbooks too as well.
Yeah. Well, yes, but kids don't.
The child needs to be involved in, coloring, tracing, and all this stuff.
Okay.
Teaching and learning materials.
All right, Stella, thank you for that, and we'll get you an answer. That's about the teaching and learning materials, which I think Prof has addressed. But we'll reiterate. Isaac is in Sunyani. Isaac Ankama, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for calling. What's on your mind?
I want to know from Prof that how will going for affect students' studying The second question is, you talked about some students, on they went taller than senior students wearing shorts that affect students. When I was in school, I was even eager, I was even sincere to be in confidence so that I can wear that color. You understand? Then the last question, you only asked the prof, I was not able to answer the question that did they research on all those uniform issues? They didn't research. That's what is happening in Ghana. We don't even research on anything. We just come because we want to do something. We believe that it will help the country. That's why I have to go about things. Research, ask people, ask the teachers, ask the students. Then ask some people again to know whether to affect or you want to affect the students. Yes, stand one day and say you want to send uniform. Uniform that students, their parents are buying already. They are not able to afford. They can't even afford it. What of this new one? I don't want to reduce the price. I don't want to give them free.
Okay. Thank you for that, Isaac. Cecilia Aduma Amwakon is in Doma Hinkro. Cecilia, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for calling. What's your question?
Okay, please. I'm not here to question. I'm just making a recommendation.
Okay.
Please, I've realized politics is getting to our education. Because what you're doing probably is good. But another government will come and they'll try to change it. And so I'm trying to tell you that why don't you get a unified idea, maybe a reform or policy, whatever I say. Then maybe whoever comes into government will follow by it, because you see, this government they want to do it in a pattern of way that will favor them. Another ones who will come, they will change it. And it's like almost every year or by every 4 years, we are changing things in our education system. So I'm just pleading, let's get something once, redo it, then we all come back, sit on it, we assess it, whether it was good, whether we need changes, whether we can do anything to improve it. That way, I think it will help.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Cecilia. Richard Teta is in Ho. Richard, good morning.
Good morning.
Right, let's hear you. Yes, we're very well, thanks. Let's hear your question.
All right. Let me say thanks very much to our GES boss, Professor Amankwa. He's doing well. We can never write the history of Ghana without J.B. Dankwa. And what I would say is that it's a nice initiative. But let me remind us that 2016 was our year, so they have not paid it. So
2016.
They should do something about it.
2016
arrears have not been paid. Okay. Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much for that.
You are welcome. You are welcome.
All right. So we have a few there. Let's rifle through them quickly. Let's get some quick answers to those questions and see where to go next.
Yeah, so I think there was some question on the language, the teaching of language.
Oh, forgive me. I'm told that we should take one more caller, then we can answer them all together. Forgive me. Abdullah Freeman in the Bono region is our last caller. Abdullah, good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for calling. What's your question?
Yeah, my question is that you say, I think Ghana education, we are not prioritizing issues. You see, at the moment when you go to some places, some remote places, where even the seat to write is a problem, the classroom, the desk, and others. I think these are what we have to prioritize instead of maybe concentrating on uniform at this particular moment.
Okay.
In fact, because somebody is struggling to get a chair for his or her work, and suddenly you bring a change of uniform. So you see the person becomes so confused, and he becomes, so it's likely at some of the, it's likely that even the parent is going to withdraw the child entirely from the school, because he can't continue to waste a lot of money instead of maybe looking for a class for another thing.
Thank you, Abdullah. Thank you very much for your contribution there. Prof, I'll let you take them.
Thank you very much. We will continue to educate the public, our teachers, our head teachers, to make sure that they will not drive anybody away because the person has not changed his or her uniform. And let's also get it right. The uniform, we are not changing for the entire school system. It is only the JHS, those who go into JHS 1, that we are changing. So we'll continue to do that. In terms of infrastructure and all the other things, the other teaching and learning materials, I have indicated from the start that it's a whole school reform. So there are a lot of things that are going on around infrastructure, around furniture and all that. What we need to know as a country is that some of these things have stayed on for decades. And we don't expect that overnight all these issues will be resolved. The key thing for us is that we know the issues and we have a plan for the issues. And then as we go along, we resolve those issues. Now, we usually hear, why don't you solve infrastructure before you do this? Why don't you solve this? You can't get life to wait. You can't get life to wait.
But you must still prioritize.
Life. Yeah, so you prioritize and then you do them alongside. If we've been following the news for some time now, the GET Fund has gone out there to use part of their monies to securitize and then get some funding for infrastructure and other things in education. And they've done it in such a way that all the various levels of education, the basic, the secondary, and then the tertiary will have their fair share of that. As far as it is money that is coming, it is going to go through a lot of processes to get it done. So we don't expect that overnight all these things will be done. But once we have that plan and we are following it, we believe that we can find a way to catch up with some of these challenges that we have. Some of them which, as I said, have been there for decades. And if we've had a concerted plan over those years, doing that probably would have catch up with that. But the world is also moving. So we can't wait till we resolve some issues that we should have resolved that we did not. We'll go along and then make sure that we do these things side by side. Now, textbooks, teaching and learning materials are part of the things that we're going to provide. And NACA is the organization in charge of the development of teaching and learning materials. So they are working with publishers to ensure that by the time we get to September, when we roll out the new curriculum, there will be materials and textbooks for it.
Will that include ICT?
They include ICT. In fact, if you look at the curriculum, primary 4 to primary 6, now we've even introduced computing. And we want to find a way around how those things will be resolved. So
we don't have a way to do it yet? Because we're about to implement the curriculum in September. So my village is Gumwa Odina. The kids there, I wonder if they've ever seen a computer before, but the primary 4 kids now have to learn ICT. Will you get a computer to Gumwa Odina?
I'm saying that we want to find a
September?
way around in resolving that issue of ICT that we don't have in our system already.
Right, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that we don't have a way to do it. The computing curriculum has spelled out the things that we need to do, and we'll make sure that we get them done and then we'll move on. There are several areas where we may not be able to put, we can't put the computer there, but maybe we may not be able to do online things and things like that. But I believe that the technology exists for us to download things and do offline and all these things. So the computing curriculum spells out the things that we need to be doing. It is experts in those areas who have come together to put those things together.
So I want
to believe that
in September, will every class 4, class 5 and class 6 pupil in this country be able to effectively do the IT curriculum that you've introduced?
That is our expectation.
They all have, so even the schools under trees.
That's our expectation.
I know, but you must have a plan to make it happen. So even the schools under trees will have computers?
That's our expectation. The point is that for schools under trees or for areas where it is not convenient to have it in the class, it is also still possible to set up centers. You know, whether we will need centers or we will do it under trees and things like that. The key thing is that once the curriculum has spelled out things for us to do, we will ensure that we put in measures to achieve those things. Because otherwise, all the things that we have written will just be paperwork. So everything that we need, every effort, every step that we need to do that. And fortunately for us, the government is committed to it.
But Prof,
So
you are the one who has to implement it.
Yes.
You know, so and we're in April.
Yes.
So parents would like to know, what is the plan? You know, as you sit here right now, do you know how you are going to get computers into these schools? If schools that don't have chairs.
No, I don't need to know the nitty-gritties of the entire curriculum.
No, I mean,
yes. So
I'm talking about ICT.
So what I'm saying is that for ICT, those things have been spelled out, the things that we need to do. And
so it will happen.
We're going to make sure that we go through all the processes that they have spelled out, the recommendations that they have made, do this, do that, do that. So if it requires for us to get them, laptops or tablets or whatever they've spelled out in there, you know, those details, I don't have it offhand, but I know that certain things have been spelled out for us. Once we have made a commitment that we need to do computing, what it takes to do, we have to do it.
And you can assure us that by September it will be done.
The assurance is that by September we will implement the policy, the new curriculum as it's been spelled out.
All right. Are there any lingering questions, or can we wrap up?
We already have issues with.
I think we've covered all the questions that came through.
Some of them were comments.
All right. Then this is how I'd like us to wrap up. This is an audacious initiative. You want to turn things around. But how can you guarantee that, you know, in the coming years, if this government is no longer there, some other government comes along and thinks this is all very partisan and we want to change it? You know, was there any guarantee for parents that they won't suddenly find themselves having to go and buy new uniforms again, you know, apply a new curriculum again some years from now?
The curriculum is something that is organic and it has to be changing as we go along. So whether the government is there or the government is not there, it's not about the government, it's about the state and what we want to achieve. So if a new government comes, and at the time that that new government comes, there's a new direction that as a nation we should be going, I think we should all be working towards that. The key is not to change because it's a new government. The key is to change because with the changing times and the things that we want to see in the people who will be owning the future, we ask ourselves, are they getting the things? If they are not, then what does it take to do that? We need to put in the measures to do that.
So the reality is that GES cannot assure us that this will not all be changing.
We need to be changing it with time.
When I say all be changing, I'm talking about, you know, what we saw with the 3 and 4 years.
Yes.
You know, that sort of thing, where you bring out a curriculum that is focusing on JB Dankwa till class 6, and then somebody else comes along and says, no, let's focus on Rawlings till class 6.
I think this issue, you really have to engage. I'm not sure you have to project it along those lines.
Right.
Once you need to have clarification on it. I don't want you to be setting some kind of agenda in a certain direction.
Right.
You know, because everybody knows JB Dankwa and what he did in Ghana. Everybody knows Nkrumah and what he did in Ghana. And for me, as a nation, there's no need for anybody to want to project these things. Right. So I believe you will be better off having some discussion with those who wrote the history. You know, we don't need as a country to be playing politics with this education. It's key. You know, and once you hamper on this one, that is what will be running all through.
I agree with you.
Because they have their reasons for doing that. We cannot say that. Who can say that Nkrumah did not exist? Can you say that?
Or your curriculum doesn't seem to reflect it.
No, please. So get the right people, which is the people who did it. And fortunately, it was a historian who headed that group, and let them tell the story as it is. And again, everybody who has done something for us, we need to acknowledge that person. Everybody who has played a role in our national development has to be acknowledged.
Professor Kwesi Opoku-Amankwah is the Director General of the Ghana Education Service. We've taken a lot of his time this morning, but we certainly appreciate it because he's clarified a lot of issues for us. Thank you so much, Prof, for being here. Now, when we come back, Mama V and her guests are going to talk about the Emmy Awards 2019, another big item on our calendar, celebrating men and their achievement in society. Stay exactly where you are. It's right after these messages.